Shabbat Shalom. Dear friends, in a world that feels like it's tilting towards darkness, a world with ever more turbulence and turmoil, violence and hatred, many of us look for even the smallest patches of light to lift our tired spirits and strengthen our weary souls. For some, that light can be found in Shabbat, our time out of time, our glimpse of a world more perfect than the one we know today. And for many, Shabbat begins right here, in this majestic space that summons us away from the clamor and clatter of the world outside. We seek out this place and look for the light that reminds us who we are, where we came from, what we stand for, and all we hold so dear. The Ner Tamid, or the eternal light, sits above our Torah and stands in for that Torah as we read, "Our light is Torah." The Ner Tamid beckons us into this sanctuary with its ever-glowing warmth, constancy, and love, saying to all of us, "You are welcome here. You belong here." And as long as this light burns, there is a place for each and every person seeking its radiance. This is the light of our people, our principles, and our purpose. With this light we see, but so too we are seen, for this is also the light of God. This week, we read about the origins of the Ner Tamid in our Torah, as it says, Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Command the Israelite people to bring you clear oil of beaten olives for lighting, for kindling lamps regularly," or in Hebrew, laha'alot ner tamid. "Aaron shall set them up in the tent of meeting, to burn regularly from evening to morning before Adonai." Our Torah here speaks about the lamps which stood in the ancient tent of meeting, or the tabernacle. The lamps were meant to be kindled on a regular basis. Whether or not this means continuously, as is now common practice in synagogues, depends on which commentator you choose to read. That being said, there are two remarkable lessons to be gleaned from this short passage about the Ner Tamid, our eternal light. First, we learn that light is essential to sacred spaces, and one can extrapolate to our lives. We need a constant source of light, no matter the time or season or day. Second, we learn that this light exists and endures only by virtue of the community. We need the oil from the Israelites, and we need the nurturing hand of Aaron to keep those lights aflame. In the simplest terms, our Torah affirms that light is a vital necessity in our lives, and we need a community to provide and nurture that light. If there were ever a more perfect lesson for Gather Shabbat, I don't think I've seen it. Over the 4 years in which I've overseen Gather, I have witnessed this program bring so much light and love and joy to so many individuals within our congregation. From the pandemic to October 7th to today, Gather has been a light and a lifeline for countless congregants. And because this program is built on volunteerism and lay participation, it is so clear just who is responsible for creating and nurturing this light. It's all of you. It's all of you who over these years have joined, participated, engaged with, or led a gather. You are where the light begins. You are how the light is created, and you are the engine by which this beautiful light is shared. For those unfamiliar with the program, Gather is our small groups initiative, bringing together congregants from across our community to learn and connect and grow. These lay-led groups are based on a range of topics, igniting marvelous conversations while building strong, enduring friendships. Our congregants gather to talk about poetry and sports, and they gather to play poker and mahjong. They gather to meditate or to contemplate the latest case in the Supreme Court. Some gather to philosophize about life's biggest questions, some to discuss God and spirituality, and some gather solely to schmooze. No matter what gather one chooses, all serve to make this large congregation feel just a little bit smaller. Over the course of 4 years, under the tremendous leadership of our Gather Vision Chair, Nicole Frankel, along with the stellar stewardship of our membership manager, Allison Salzman, our Gather umbrella has expanded. New Gather groups are emerging all the time, as are new ideas for future groups. And if you have an idea, please let me know. We've also added Gather Mingle for single members seeking friendships and social opportunities, and Gather Family for temple families looking to do the very same. While our staff and leadership do play a large part in the work of Gather, Gather truly runs by virtue of our amazing and deeply committed lay people, most especially our guides and liaisons who devote countless hours to planning and facilitating their Gather groups. It is our guides and our liaisons, as well as our wonderful Gather participants, who are creating and nurturing and disseminating those much needed rays of light, and they are doing it one Gather at a time. Tonight, we are so privileged to hear from two of our Gather guides, Rebecca Weisberg and Kyle Satterfield. Rebecca began with Gather nearly 4 years ago, guiding our binge-worthy TV group. It was amazing, which met during the dark days of the pandemic, providing much-needed levity and joy when both were in extremely short supply. Now, Rebecca expertly guides our Mahjong Gather with equal levity, joy, and of course, her signature good humor. And we are so blessed to have Kyle Satterfield lead our Supreme Court Roundup Gather, where everybody has a perspective worthy of an opinion. For 2 years, Kyle has facilitated discussions, debates, and deliberations that have not only shed light on the cases at hand, but have solidified many a friendship too. Both Kyle and Rebecca have poured their hearts and souls into Gather, sparking love and light and community when we needed it most. Thank you both for being our light and for sharing your light for these many years. It is my honor now to welcome Rebecca Weisberg to the pulpit to share a few words about Gather.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. When Rabbi Sapadin contacted me during the pandemic about leading a Gather group, I wasn't sure it was something I wanted to do. I didn't know anything about the program or how it worked, but then I thought, why not? I'll give it a try. Since then, I've been involved in 2 amazing Gather groups, Binge-Worthy Television and Mahjong. Both of these groups have been so meaningful in many ways. The members ranged in age from 25 to 82, both men and women, and multiple backgrounds. The television gather, we had a few young couples that had never met before, and now they are great friends and their children attended Emanu-El's preschool together. The Mahjong gather was created because a new friend I had made from the TV group wanted to learn how to play and asked me to do it with her. After playing for a few months privately, I reached out to Rabbi Sapedin and asked if we could start a gather on our own after work on a regular basis and, of course, include the larger community. It's been 1.5 years and we're still playing strong. What I've learned over these years is that Gather is an amazing way to connect, learn, grow, explore, and most importantly, have fun. Our congregation is quite large. It can feel a bit overwhelming at times. These groups really give its members an opportunity to engage with each other on a much smaller scale, and in turn, make our larger community feel more intimate and personal. No matter what the topic is, members of Gather community all have the common connection of our Judaism and Temple Emanu-El. These bonds are so important, now more than ever. So I encourage you to explore the program and sign up for a group. You've got nothing to lose. Thank you.
And now it is my pleasure to invite up Kyle Satterfield to share his reflections on Gather.
Good evening and Shabbat Shalom. When Rabbi Sapedin approached me 2 years ago about leading a Gather group, I initially had a bit of trouble discerning the topic for my new group. Rabbi Sapedin told me the topic should be something that I'm passionate about and that I would love to spend time chatting about with others. With my various and wide-ranging passions and my knack for chatting, the gears in my mind began to turn. Perhaps I could lead a Gather group based on my love of existentialist and absurdist philosophy. But just how many gatherers might share my passion for Camus' seminal work, L'Étranger? Probably very few, though I could have been wrong. At the risk of launching a Gather group of one, I decided that I needed a broader target demographic. On the opposite side of the spectrum, perhaps I could lead a Gather group centered on the complex interpersonal conflicts at the heart of the epic television drama, The Real Housewives of New Jersey. But alas, as we just heard, there was already a television Gather group at that time. My list of ideas falling between those two ends of the spectrum went on and on. One thing remained constant, however. I wanted to avoid any topic related to the law. Though I'm certainly passionate about the law, that's what I do all day, and in most cases, all night, and I desperately wanted to chat about something else. Anything else. But following the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health, which overruled the right to reproductive autonomy first recognized by the court in Roe versus Wade, I felt like I didn't have a choice. At that point, it became evident that even setting aside one's ideological views, the court was poised to increasingly insert itself into our everyday and private lives as citizens. And so despite my best efforts, my Gather topic had found me, and I had found my new mission. I would leverage my prior experience working in the federal judiciary to demystify the Supreme Court, the process by which the court decides cases, and the various legal issues at stake for my fellow gatherers. Think of it as Torah study, Supreme Court edition. Together, we would become court watchers, armed with the critical tools of knowledge and information as the court entered this new phase. And despite being referred to as, quote, the professor by one of our group members, the collective wisdom that we generate through open, frank, and respectful discussion is much more valuable than whatever insight that I can pass along, if any. Thanks to the diverse backgrounds, viewpoints, and experiences of our group members, the vast majority of whom I should note are not lawyers, I mean it sincerely when I say that I walk away from each Gather meeting having learned something new, having gained a new perspective, and having thought about an issue slightly differently. That's the power of Gather. And equally important, these fellow congregants, most of whom previously were merely familiar faces at best, are now my friends. And as friends, we support each other, and there has never been a more important time, at least in our lifetimes, to support and uplift one another in our community. In the wake of October 7th and its aftermath, our Gather group has engaged in one of the most critical forms of resistance against the rising tide of anti-Semitism, proud and active engagement in Jewish communal life. The Jewish people are strong, but when we are together, when we gather, we are at our strongest. That is also the power of Gather. As part of the Supreme Court's process of deciding cases, the justices routinely hold what's called a conference, it's a meeting behind closed doors, to discuss their opinions on the legal issues and cases before the court. In my mind, I like to think that when we meet, our Gather group is holding a conference of our own. And it will come as a shock to absolutely no one when I say that we have many, many opinions on the court's work. We're all aware of the old expression, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, so do the multiplication for our Gather group of 15. And for the math challenged among us, that's 22 and a half opinions, and I actually think that's pretty accurate. So tonight, I have a message that I would like to deliver from the Bima, and here it goes. If any of the learned justices happen to be watching the live stream tonight, I, on behalf of my fellow gatherers, would like to formally extend an invitation to attend our conference here at Temple Emanu-El. It's generally the 3rd Tuesday of every month, and don't worry, there's a Zoom link if you're not able to join us here in person at 1 East 65th Street. You never know what you might learn from this incredible group of individuals or how your perspective might change. Shabbat Shalom.
My thanks to Kyle and to Rebecca, and of course to Rabbi Sarah Sapedin, who is the shepherd, who keeps the Gather flock doing all of the wonderful things that they do. It's now my privilege to invite all the Gather guides and participants who are here, and those who are watching from home, because some of our Gather groups are actually geared toward our out-of-town members to help them connect with one another and to the congregation. I'd ask all of you to please stand so that I can extend this blessing of thanks to all of you. Makor Chaim, source of life and light. We thank you for this wonderful Kehillah Kedoshah, this congregation we all cherish. And in this moment, we thank you, O God, for these lamplighters who bend the wicks together that they might shine one brighter light for all of us. We hope that all who have participated and led have found joy and uplift in their service and also in the friendships that they have made. And may they inspire the rest of us to follow their lead and invest ourselves in giving strength to this congregation through our involvement, and in so doing, we pray find strength ourselves. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and watch over you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence surround you and fill you with peace. Amen. Our thanks to you.